We're talking about practice, man.
Oh, you better believe we're talking about practice, because in MotoGP, practice really counts. And it's gotten a bit confusing for the fans. So let's clear some things up. But before I jump in, if you could please like, follow, share, mash all the buttons so you get all the MotoGP goodness you can handle all season long. So why does practice matter so much in MotoGP? Well, each team only has so much time to set up their motorcycle for the circuit they're racing that particular week. Not all circuits are created equally, and what works one weekend at a track that's very stop, start, tight, corners, heavy braking isn't going to work at a fast and flowing track. But the results in practice also dictate the pecking order in qualifying. Meaning if you're one of the top 10 fastest in practice, then you get to go straight to Q2 and fight for the top of the timesheets, while everyone else is fighting for the back half of the grid. It's the names of the practices that get a little confusing, because on Friday morning we have free practice 1. That is just a setup practice. Those times don't count towards qualifying. And then later on Friday, usually, except for in Qatar where it got rained out, we have practice. Okay, not practice 2 or free practice 2, but this one is just called practice. And that's the one that counts towards qualifying on Saturday. And then on Saturday, we have free practice 2. Not practice 3 or free practice 3. It's free practice 2 because, yes, again, it doesn't count for qualifying, but it's another practice to work on the setup. I think to a lot of newcomers, it gets a little bit confusing. Why is this one called free practice? And then they have a practice, and then free practice 2 is after practice that doesn't have a number attached to it. And why? I think they need to figure out a uniform way of calling these so it just makes sense at first glance. Okay, now let's talk about how we can fix MotoGP practice, make it less confusing, and actually make it a little bit better. What I would do, instead of calling it free practice and free practice or whatever they're doing now, I would just make it simpler. Practice is practice. That's it. If you want to call it free practice or regular practice or cool practice or fun practice or just practice, if you want to call it brunch, I don't care. But if I was structuring the MotoGP weekend, if they made a mistake of putting me in charge, this is what I would do. I would call the first session on Friday practice, and I would make that session 1 hour long. It doesn't count towards qualifying and give the teams a whole hour to work out their setup for the weekend. The session on Friday noon I would now call qualifying 1, because not only would that session now dictate who goes into Q2 and the newly formed Q3, it would also determine the starting spots on the grid for the sprint on Saturday. Ooh, are you expecting that one? And that session could still be half hour, 45 minutes. They can still use it for bike setup, but they also have to put in a hot lap. Then on Saturday, we have practice 2. And practice 2 is their last chance to set up the bike for the upcoming Q2 and Q3 and the sprint Saturday night. Now, our new Q2 and Q3 operate exactly as before with Q1 and Q2. The top 2 racers from 2 go into 3. The top racers in 3 go for pole position. And that qualifying serves for the Sunday main Grand Prix, which means you could have one grid on Saturday and a completely different grid on Sunday. Because who wants to see everyone starting from the same spot 2 races in a row? I think this would be a great way to eliminate confusion, inject some excitement into Friday afternoon, and give us a different grid for the sprint and main race. But let me know what you think, and if you have a great idea on how to reshuffle practice and make it better, drop it in the comments.